All right, so welcome to the deep dive where we take your sources and we really like pick them apart and get to the core of it all, the good stuff, the stuff that really stays with you.
That's right.
And today, we're diving into Frankenstein, Mary
Yes.
Shelley's Frankenstein,
One of the greats.
chapter 17 specifically,
Absolutely.
which is a really pivotal moment
It is.
in the book, in the story.
Absolutely.
So for our listener out there, this is the chapter where the creature, Frankenstein's creature,
Right.
confronts his creator, Victor Frankenstein,
Yep.
with a pretty intense request.
That's right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, this chapter you chose, it's, I mean, in a way, it's like the emotional, moral, like kind of crux of his whole journey.
oh, absolutely.
It's the creature's journey, and it forces Victor to really like face what he has done, the
Right.
consequences of his actions.
Yeah, and I think that's what is so compelling about this chapter is that it's not just like a monster asking for something.
Right.
You know-
It's so much deeper than that. And I think that's why it's resonated with so many people for so long.
It really is a foundational text when you start talking about creation and what responsibility means. Like, it's all right there.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to try to unpack today in this deep dive is this really intense exchange between the creature and Victor,
Yeah.
where the creature is demanding a companion and Victor's struggling with that, you know? And I think what's really interesting is we can look at what they're saying, but what's, I think, even more fascinating is what their arguments reveal about the big ideas in the book.
Absolutely.
So we're going to talk about what does it even mean to create something?
Right.
What responsibilities do you have when you do that? And then this really like powerful and sad, theme of loneliness
It's huge.
in this book.
Yeah.
So let's just jump right in.
Okay.
So the creature, he recounts all of these terrible experiences he's had up to this point to Victor, and then he just hits him with this very blunt request.
Yeah, he does. And it's not, he doesn't beat around the bush at all. He's very direct with it.
Yeah.
He says, you must create a female for me
Right.
with whom I can live
Yep.
in the interchange of those sympathies necessary for my being.
Like he needs it to live.
Yeah. This isn't just like it'd be nice if I had, someone to hang out with. This is a fundamental need for him.
Right. And he's not even asking at this point. No, he's demanding it.
He really is.
He's saying you must not refuse to concede this.
Right.
He calls it a crown.
Exactly. And it's interesting because earlier in the book, he's begging, for understanding and for Victor to see him
Right.
and understand him. And now he's saying like, no, this is my right. You owe this to me.
So bold,
It really is bold.
considering everything that's happened
Right.
leading up to this point.
Absolutely. And it speaks to the fact that he's now placing the onus on Victor.
Yeah.
You made me this way.
Right.
You're responsible for alleviating my suffering.
Okay. So Victor, how does he react to this?
Less than favorably.
Yeah.
I mean, he is furious.
Yeah.
He is immediately just rejects it completely
Yeah.
and says, I do refuse it, and no torture shall ever extort a consent from me.
Wow.
So like any sort of empathy or even like duty that he might have felt listening to the creature's tale
Yeah.
is totally gone
Right.
in this moment.
Yeah.
He's completely consumed by fear.
Yeah. He talks about this like potential for joint wickedness that
Yeah.
could desolate the world.
Right.
So it seems like he's afraid for humanity
Right.
more than he's worried about
Yeah.
his own creation
Exactly.
and his responsibility for his own creation.
He's thinking very big picture at this point.
Right.
Like societal destruction.
Right.
He's imagining like two of these creatures,
Yeah.
running amok and wreaking havoc. And it's like his duty to prevent that
Right.
at all costs.
But the creature doesn't just give up.
No, he does not. He comes back with some very powerful counter arguments,
He does.
trying to get Victor to see his side of things.
And it's hard not to feel for him a little bit when he says this.
Oh,
He
absolutely.
says, I am malicious because I am miserable.
Right. And this is a key line for you.
Absolutely.
Like this is a fundamental truth
Right.
about this creature.
Right.
He is saying, my bad behavior
Right.
is not inherent.
Mm-hmm.
It is a direct result of the pain and isolation that I have endured.
Right.
Like he's basically saying, you created me.
Yeah.
You created a vacuum in my life.
Right.
And now you're surprised that something bad rushed in to fill it.
Like nature abhors a vacuum.
Right, exactly.
So it's like that nature versus nurture debate,
Mm-hmm.
but it's playing out on this very personal level. He's basically saying, look what you made me.
Right.
And not only that, the world rejected me,
Yes.
including you.
Yes. His own creator abandoned him.
Right.
You know, like, who else is he supposed to turn to? He has
Yeah.
no one.
And he even brings up that, like, Victor wouldn't even think it was murder
Right.
to destroy him.
Yeah, he says, you would not call it murder to destroy me.
Right.
You know.
So he's, like, aware of how little his life
Right. He knows he's seen his mistake.
Oh, yeah.
That needs to be erased.
And then the creature's tone kind of shifts
It does.
at a certain point.
Yeah.
It goes from pleading to more forceful.
Yes, much more forceful.
Yeah.
He delivers an ultimatum.
Yeah.
He says, if I cannot inspire love,
Yeah.
I will cause fear.
Ooh, chills.
Yeah. This is a real turning point in the conversation.
Yes.
He's making his intentions very clear.
Right.
You know, he's done with trying to reason with Victor's better nature. He's like, you're either going to do this
Right.
or I'm going to make you regret it.
Right. And then he kind of switches again.
He does.
He goes back to this, like, almost pragmatic way of, like, talking about his needs.
Yeah, he kind of tamps it down a little
Yeah.
bit. He says, okay, well, I want a companion, but I understand.
Right.
I'm monstrous.
Yeah.
So just make me a female
Right.
as hideous as myself.
So he's, like, kind of giving up on this idea of, like, fitting in with the...
Absolutely. He knows he doesn't belong.
Right.
He just wants someone who understands him.
Right.
Someone who can relate
Right.
to this experience of being an outcast.
And he even says, like, our shared isolation
Yeah.
would make us even closer.
Yes.
You know?
It would be this unbreakable bond.
Right.
Because it's us against the world.
Right. And he paints this picture of them living in this tiny little world.
Yes.
Completely separate from everyone.
Right.
And that it wouldn't be joyful necessarily, but at least it would be harmless.
Right. And then he makes this plea for empathy, you know?
Yeah.
Says, I long to feel gratitude.
Hmm.
You know, it's so human, you know?
It is.
He wants connection. He wants something positive.
Right.
He's so tired of this negativity.
Yeah. And Victor wavers a bit.
He does for a second. He seems to understand, you know?
He acknowledges the creature's fine sensations.
Yeah.
And I think he feels like that creator obligation.
Right. There's that flicker of, oh,
Yeah.
maybe I do owe him this.
Yes.
You know, I brought him into this world.
And then the creature proposes exile to South America.
Yes, to the wilds of South America.
Yeah. He's like, we'll live off the land.
Right. Acorns and berries.
Yeah. And no one will ever see us again.
Right.
Which sounds reasonable.
Yeah. On the surface, it sounds like a good solution.
Yeah.
He's trying to directly address Victor's fears.
All right.
You know, we will be totally removed.
Right.
We will pose no threat.
Right.
So what are you worried about?
Yeah, but Victor's like, I don't know.
Yeah, that doubt creeps back in.
Yeah.
He's like, what if you don't stick to that?
Right.
What if you come back
Right.
and now there's two of you?
And wreak havoc.
Right.
Yeah, and so the fear wins.
Yeah, his fear just completely overpowers
Right.
any kind of logic or reasoning at this
Yeah.
point.
So the creature picks up on this.
Of course.
He's like, you're so inconstant.
Yes, with your feelings.
Yeah, and he makes this solemn oath again that they'll
Yes.
leave
Forever.
and never come back.
Never to be seen again.
Yeah, and that this will finally quell the evil passions
Exactly.
because he will have someone.
Right. He truly believes that this will change him.
Right.
That having a companion
Yeah.
will fundamentally alter who he is.
Yeah. And so Victor, he's just like,
Yeah, he's wrestling with
yeah, he's like, I feel bad for you.
Right.
But then you're so gross.
Yes.
Oh.
He's repulsed by him,
Yeah.
but he understands his pain.
Yes. And this is like the crux of Victor's character.
It really is.
He understands.
He's got the empathy,
Yeah.
but he can't get past
Yeah.
the horror
Right.
of this creature's appearance.
Right. And so I think his decision in the end comes down to like this cold calculation. He's like, well, what's the less dangerous option?
Yeah, what's going to cause less harm? Is it going to be to agree to this?
Right.
Or is it going to be to refuse
Right.
and risk the creature's wrath?
Yeah. So he consents, but conditionally.
He says, I consent to your demand
Yeah.
on your solemn oath to quit Europe forever.
Right.
As soon as I deliver into your hands a female.
A female just like you.
Yes.
Okay. So the creature, he is ecstatic.
He is overwhelmed with joy.
Yeah. And his oath is so dramatic. He's
Right,
like,
and-
by the sun and the blue sky and by
Yeah.
the fire of love that burns my heart.
Yes, he's invoking the power of nature
Right.
for this oath.
Right. And he leaves immediately.
He does.
Like he's afraid
Right.
Victor will change his mind.
Exactly.
And Victor feels immediate regret.
Oh, yeah. The second the creature leaves,
Yeah.
the weight of what he's done just
Yeah.
crushes him.
He says, my heart was heavy
Yeah.
and my steps were slow.
Right. And he feels mocked. by nature.
Yeah.
Like the birds are singing and the
Yeah.
sun is shining. And he's like, how can you be so cheerful when I feel this way?
Right. And he goes back to Geneva.
Yeah.
And he's like a changed man.
Right.
He looks different.
He's aged.
Yeah. Yeah. And he can't tell anyone what's going on.
It's completely isolated
Yeah.
with this terrible secret.
Right.
This burden.
But he's going to do it for his family.
He has to protect them.
Right.
From this thing that he created.
Yeah.
It's very tragic.
It really is. So,
yeah.
I mean, this chapter, it's really all about this tension.
Yes.
Between the creature who wants a connection.
Right. He desperately needs that.
And Victor, who's afraid.
Yes.
And feels responsible for what he's done.
For humanity as a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And their arguments are so compelling.
They are.
On both sides.
You can see where they're both coming from.
Yeah. You do empathize with both of them, even though they're kind of on opposite sides of this. Yeah. And it makes you think, like, what are the responsibilities of a creator?
Right.
You know, if you make something, are you obligated to make sure it's okay?
Right. Are you obligated to ensure its happiness?
Yeah.
Even if it turns out to be something monstrous.
Yeah.
And what about the consequences for others? How do you balance that?
Yeah.
You know, your creation's happiness with the safety of everyone else.
Right.
These are huge questions.
They are.
And I think that's why this book has resonated for so long.
Right.
Because it's asking these really fundamental questions.
Yeah.
About what it means to be human.
And what it means to create. Yeah. So much to think about.
It really is.
So, listener, I hope you enjoyed this deep dive with us today into Frankenstein, chapter 17.
It's a good one.
Yeah, and maybe go back and reread it with these ideas in mind.
Yeah, you might see some new stuff in there.
Yeah. All right, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Take care.
You too.